So the hype is and continues to be all about the full frame line of cameras. Now, there's lots of videos that talk about the difference between full frame and crop sensors, and if you're like me and you've been shooting on something like the GH5 for the last several years, then you're used to a crop sensor camera, in my case, a micro four thirds system. Now I have a speed booster that I've adapted to a full frame lens right now, which gives it basically, I think, a 1.1 times crop, which is basically nothing in my opinion, and I still get the basic full frame look out of the camera. There's a lot of different things that you can do. Why am I switching? And that's what this video is going to be all about. So stick around, we're going to get into that. So if you saw the thumbnail, you know I did actually invest in a Sony A7IV. I've actually had the Sony A7C before. I actually bought that right before the pre-orders for the A7IV were announced, and so I returned that as quick as I could to get my money back so that I could then pre-order my A7IV. I've been wanting to make the switch in my workflow from the GH5 primarily to something like the Sony A7S III or the A7IV, but I strictly budget my videography income. I do it on the side. I'm actually a youth pastor full-time, so when I get money from a shoot, I set aside a percentage of that to go back toward my side business and investing in gear and all that kind of stuff. And so I decided a long time ago, I actually wanted, at the beginning of 2021, I think, or the end of 2020, I decided I wanted to go into the full frame route. I knew I wanted to do Sony. I've got several other friends that are in the videography business and that use Sony, and I've used Canon before, and long story short, I decided to go with Sony. So I got it came in today. I'm going to unbox it here for you, but also I wanted to talk about why I'm investing in this new system. And so first off, I absolutely love my GH5, and I will not be selling it. I will be keeping my GH5. I will be selling my GH4. I can get a great image out of my GH5. And in fact, if I were to put it up next to some other A7C footage where I did on a couple shoots, you wouldn't be able to tell which one was the full frame camera and which one was my micro four thirds camera. You wouldn't be able to tell. There's a lot of great micro four thirds cameras that or crop sensor cameras, even APS-C, that get great images out of it. And so if you know what you're doing, you can get a great look out of any camera. The Blackmagic 4K in particular has a micro four thirds sensor and is awesome. A lot of people love that camera. But for me to get that look, I have to put on a speed booster and a really heavy lens. I'm using my Sigma Art 18 to 35, and that's my favorite lens of two. I have two favorites, and I love that. So if you can get a lot of great images out of any camera, then why am I switching from the much less expensive GH5 micro four thirds system to the Sony full frame system? And the primary reason for me is to save time to get the best image. And like I said, I can get a great image out of my GH5, and if I were to stack it up side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell which is the full frame, which is the micro four thirds. But the work to get there, there's new cameras that have come out that just make it a lot easier to get that. The primary reason being the autofocus. And to be honest, I've not been particularly concerned about that over the last few years of doing this, because, for instance, even on my gimbal, I use the Ronin RSC2, and I love it, and I can hook up my camera to it, and I have the little ring on the trigger to adjust focus, so I can do all that. I can put it on a gimbal and I can fly it around on that and still manually focus things. It's not my issue. My issue is it takes much more time. I have to do several takes of something most of the time because sometimes it's hard to see on the screen while you're trying to, if I hook up a monitor while it's also hooked up to the gimbal, sometimes I get glitchiness that goes on. And so it takes a lot more work, takes a few more tries to get my focus locked while trying to do complex shots like that. Also, if I'm ever recording myself, which I do at my church all the time, I have a little dummy doll that I stick in front of the camera, go behind the camera, and set my focus, move it, and then come back. I know there's the app, and I like the app on the GH5, but it is not the clearest image, and it is a little laggy. And when I use my adapter, my speed booster, to a full frame lens, then sometimes the autofocus isn't as reliable when I do the touch to focus on the iPad or my phone, and sometimes it'll look like it's got it, but then I get in the computer and it's fuzzy. It's not in perfect focus, and it's really easy to miss focus, especially when I'm stopped down to like 1.1 or 1.7 or even 2.8. Sometimes it's tough to be sure that you got it, and it takes more time to get that. So the autofocus is incredibly important to me now compared to what it used to be. I'm just tired of wasting my time trying to get the look that I want to get, when I could just turn it on that eye autofocus and just not even have to think about it. And it's gotten reliable enough where I don't have to think about it or wonder if it's going to catch my subject. I do a lot of interview situations, and so I'm not concerned necessarily about it being difficult for the camera to catch the eye or to maintain focus. So that was one of the main reasons. The second reason is because for a long time on my GH5, I actually felt like I had a leg up over some of these other systems, because the GH5, this came out like 2017 or something, and it has 10-bit color, 422, 60 frames per second in 4K, things that a lot of cameras didn't have for a lot of time. And so I would much rather have that than the autofocus, because it gets a better image. Again, it just takes more work to refine that image to get it to look the way you want it to do a lot of times. So when I got my A7C, I loved it. I loved that it has the updated autofocus algorithm in that system, just like the A7IV here. But I could tell I was working with 8-bit footage again, and like with my GH4, which is the reason I didn't like that. And so now with the Sony A7IV, I get that 10-bit. I can do 420 or 422, which gives me a lot more latitude in my color grading and all that kind of stuff. But also, I know the 60 frames is cropped in 4K, but for me that's not really a big of an issue. Some people, they're like, that's the reason I'm not buying this camera. For me, I don't really care about that. I get 60 frames, and it is downsampled, so I think it comes out at like 4.7K. It's downsampled from that when it's in the crop mode. And speaking of crop mode, I love the ability to hit a button and just go to APS-C crop mode and get a little extra reach in my shot. So I love being able to do all those kinds of things, and so the fact that I can do all that with the A7IV is a huge win for me, why I'm getting this system and investing in it. So those are the two primary reasons for me why I'm doing that. And the third is because of low light. There's been a lot of situations, and I can actually get a pretty decent low light image out of my GH5 when I'm using the speed booster, or when I'm using a prime lens that can stop down to 1.7 or something like that. But I've been in lots of situations, whether it's at a wedding shoot or wherever, where I'm in a building and I'm kind of run and gun shooting, and I don't have a lot of control over lighting, and the room is very dimly lit with yellow tungsten lighting, and it makes it really difficult for me to eliminate noise. Even when I run a denoising software like Neat Video, it becomes really difficult to then even mess with and play around with that 422 color in that low light situation. And so there's been times I've been really dissatisfied with how a project has come out, simply because of the limitations of the system I was using. So with the bigger sensor on the full frame sensor, especially with Sony being the low light king, I'm not going to have to deal with that issue anymore. Now, like I said, I am keeping my GH5. I'm selling my GH4, and I'll probably get a new lens or something with that, but I am keeping my GH5 because I have that system. I'm invested in it. I have lots of lenses for it, and I can get good images. It makes a great B camera, where especially if I want to do handheld, and the stabilization on that. It's another huge thing I love about my GH5 is the stabilization. And so I can get a lot of that as a side camera when I'm operating that. If my main camera is on a tripod, and stuff like that. And it's on autofocus, and I don't have to worry about it. So I will be keeping my GH5, and so then the trouble then will be how much work is it to match the two images. And I've done the couple shoots with it now, with using either an A7 III or the A7C, which is basically an A7 III. And it's honestly, actually, if you know what you're doing with color, and especially since it's 422 10-bit color, I've gotten pretty decent at doing that. And you would not be able to, again, tell if I put the images side by side. If you look at some of the work I've done, you wouldn't be able to say, oh yeah, that's the Micro Four Thirds system, or that's the full frame image right there. Like, that's you really can't tell. And so for me, eventually I will probably buy another Sony camera, and I look forward to being able to afford that someday. But for now, I don't have an issue with the image that I get out of my GH5, and so I'm going to keep that, save that extra money, and allow my money to go further with that system, because, as we all know, full frame is much more expensive when you're talking about lenses, glass, accessories, and all that kind of stuff. So that is why I have invested in the full frame system, even though I love my Micro Four Thirds GH5 system. So if you have any questions about that, or anything that I missed, if you have a GH5 and why you love it and why you're not switching, if you're waiting for the GH6, or if you went ahead with the GH5 Mark II, let me know that below. Or if you have also switched to a full frame camera from a Micro Four Thirds camera, and you want to know some of the differences between them, I've got some videos coming up where I'm comparing, like for instance, shallow depth of field. Can you really tell? Does full frame make that big of a difference? Do you have to have full frame to get that look? Or you know, my favorite kind of lenses for the GH5. I've got a couple of videos coming up on that kind of stuff, even how to color match these two systems. So make sure you subscribe, and I'm going to be going through some of that stuff. But if you have anything else to add that I missed, put that below. And without any further ado, I'm excited for this part to open and unbox the Sony A7 IV. Like I said, first time opening it. We're going to see what's in the box here. It's very similar packaging to the A7C I just got a couple months ago. It's got all your instructions, and here's the good stuff. Got the nice leather neck strap, which I probably will not ever use. Battery, which I'm gonna put on the charger right now because I already have a couple other knockoff batteries that I can go ahead and put in the camera so I can turn it on. What do we got here? Oh, it's the USB power block so that I can charge the battery straight from the camera. I think it's interesting that this doesn't come with an actual charger for the battery, but like I said, for myself, that's not a huge deal because I already have that. So this, maybe some cables, I would assume. Yeah, USB-C to USB. And the goods right here. There we go. Oh, yes. Oh, that feels good. That's got a big, deep grip. Way better than the A7C and the A7 III. You got that flip out screen, which feels very firm and very good compared to some of the other Sony cameras I've held. It's not flimsy. Listen to that click. Ready? Here. As it clicks back in there. That's good. And I like how it has... Oh, it's not down. Oh no, I just put dust on this already. But I like how this has the guard that will come over the sensor. I don't know why it's not on there right now. I know you're not supposed to blow in it. There's just one little piece of dust that landed though, so don't tell. I had to, after getting into the Sony system for a couple of weeks, having to return that and wait for 2 months for this to come in was painful, but so thankful it finally came in. And actually came in early because it wasn't supposed to ship until the 30th, and this came on the 24th. So just in time for Christmas, which was super nice. So I guess I should stop just looking at it here, and I should turn it on and play with it a little. Put in the battery. Guess I'll get rid of this here. And the moment of truth. Opens up with this menu here. I want English, obviously. There we go. English. Set area, date, and time. Okay. Boom. Oh, I have no card in here. How's it? I want this. Oh, there we go. So if you're new to Sony, not only do you have to push this down, but you gotta look at the arrow. Push down and push open. You got a new card as well, so pro grade. Alright, so I'm gonna have to mess around with a lot of these. Picture profile. What is S Cinetone? There we go, S Cinetone. And there we go. I'll just leave it all as it is. Boom. So we got that on. Let's see here. Let's wake her up and record her for the first time. Hello. Looks like autofocus is working like the dream I wanted it to. And I don't know if my auto exposure is on. I hope not. I think it is. Yep, my ISO is on auto, so I'm gonna have to make some changes right off the bat. But for a first look, this is pretty sweet. And audio coming out of the camera sounds like this, so it's pretty neat. I don't know how that sounds. We'll see how that sounds. And then this is back to my audio notebook here. So it's pretty neat. It's a pretty fantastic little camera there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to change a lot of these settings because it's all on auto right now. So I want to do that, and I will have to turn the sound off on the record because I don't want that going on. But the buttons feel very tactile and nice to hit. I love it. I'm excited. If you want to learn more about this, as I figure out this new ecosystem, if you have just made the switch as well, or if you're wanting to make the switch and you want to know what some differences are, what the learning curves are going to be, then make sure you follow this channel, subscribe, and I'd greatly appreciate that. Like this video if you liked it, and until next time, see you guys later.